Welcome back to the worst possible rebuild I have ever done on Madden 24, where in the first episode, I did a fantasy draft where I could only draft the worst available players at every single position, and we were trying to rebuild this team from a 50 overall. Now, just to quickly recap how the first episode played out, I simulated 3 seasons where we went 0-17, 1-16, and 1-16, so obviously we still have a lot of room for improvement here. However, we were able to draft a few pieces to build around on this team, like star quarterback Jimmy Edwards, who was a superstar dev trait. We also got wide receiver Max Johnson, and then we still have tight end Carlos Jackson, but he is currently injured, so he's not going to show up here. And then we also have a star dev trait at center. I really did not spend a ton of the draft picks on good defensive players in the last episode. That's going to try to be my focus today, but obviously we still didn't improve the offense a bit. But we did manage to get a couple younger guys to build around, like outside linebacker Zach Bonham, and then superstar dev trait middle linebacker Carson Clifford. The first contract we have to deal with this offseason is wide receiver Tyler Scott. We're going to offer him this 3-year deal. It's just the base neutral offer. Will he be accepting this? Yes, he will. The next contract up is going to be right tackle Matt Pert. We're going to see if we can get him back on a 1-year deal offering that, and he will be returning. One thing that is going to really suck is we are going to lose a couple guys that actually start on this defense in Keitrell Clark and safety Tony Adams. I believe Thomas Graham might be close to a starter, if not an actual starter, but these guys don't have a ton of interest in coming back, so we're going to let all of them walk. The following guys are this year's free agent class. We got defensive end Taquan Graham, quarterback Matthew Stafford, defensive end Tyquan Lewis, outside linebacker Derek Hall, defensive tackle Greg Gaines, left guard David Edwards, safety Tony Adams, tight end Luke Musgrave to come in and be a backup, defensive back Keyshawn Nixon, wide receiver Bo Melton, defensive tackle Milton Williams, defensive back Bryce Hall, defensive back Mekhi Blackman, left guard Connor McGovern, and running back Aaron Jones to back up J.K. Dobbins. Now, back in the last episode, we actually made a trade with the Ravens in one of the drafts to pick up their first-round pick this year, so we ended up with 2 first-round picks in this draft, but it will be at pick number 22. But more importantly, we once again have the number 1 overall pick, and let's finally use it on defense. Defensive back Ladarius Slay out of Ohio, with A catching, A man coverage, B zone coverage, has great speed, elite acceleration, and has A awareness. You will be our draft pick, and you do have a hidden dev trait. I am glad to see that. And you know what? Later on in the first round at pick number 22, why not turn around and take another corner? This time it's going to be Corey Newsome out of Texas Tech. B man coverage, B press, B zone, does have C catching, but has great speed and solid acceleration, so he will be our next draft pick with a hidden dev trait. And now just a handful of picks later here to start the second round, we're going to take right tackle Sherrod Sermons out of California with A awareness, A impact block, and A pass block. He's going to come in also with a hidden dev trait, but a 78 strength is pretty low. And now at the start of the third round, we're going to take right guard Clarence Bennett. So we're going to go back-to-back offensive linemen, and Bennett will come in as a normal dev trait. That honestly sucks. Let's see if we can make up for that pick with this one. Outside linebacker Joel Byrd out of California. B to D block shedding, but does have A tackle. He has elite speed and acceleration. His awareness is somewhere between a B and a D, which is kind of concerning, but his play rec is a B. Like I said a minute ago, his tackle is an A, injury is an A. We're going to go and take Joel Byrd, and he's going to come in as a normal dev trait. In the 5th round, we're going to take another corner, but Jalen Hatcher might be getting moved over to safety. I feel like I've probably already done this once in this rebuild, but I'm going to do it again. So we're going to take a corner, try to move him to safety, but he is going to be a normal dev trait. I went ahead and just jumped to the end of the draft. None of our other draft picks really made any sort of a splash, but the guy we took with the number 1 overall pick, Ladarius Slay, does come in as an 80 overall. And then past him, we got a 74 overall corner in Corey Newsome, a 73 overall right tackle, a 73 overall guard, a 68 overall outside linebacker, a 68 overall safety, a 70 overall receiver, so Trevor Rout ended up being a decent selection, a 66 overall safety, and a 69 overall corner. We, however, did not land the best player in the draft because that was apparently Aaron Hartwell, who was an 82 overall left tackle that ended up going to New England. Here is your official starting offense for Season 4 of this rebuild. Quarterback Jimmy Edwards up to an 87 overall. Sermons will be our starting right tackle. And we still have Carlos Jackson, who's up to an 83 overall, and Max Johnson, who's now an 87 overall. It may be a controversial decision to start both of the rookie corners on the outside, but the reason I want to start Newsome is really our defense can't be any worse than what it has been the last few seasons, so if we can get this guy to develop into a solid corner, that'll be better for the future. But once again on our season goal, we're going to keep it simple and say 4 wins because we have yet to win more than a single game in a season. But how about this? At the midway point of the season, we are 3-3, easily our best start. Offensive points per game, we are number 10 in the league, but defensive points per game, we're number 24. So we are winning these, but they seem to be really close games. Now, I don't want to say that we are probably going to make the playoffs, but we at least have a shot to, so let's jump to the end of the season and see where we finish. Okay, not surprisingly, we do not make the playoffs, but we do finish 6-11, which is by far our best record. Offensive points per game, we finished number 21 in the league, and defensive points per game, we finished number 25. Quarterback Jimmy Edwards went for 3,900 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. On the ground, J.K. Dobbins ran for 900 yards and 11 touchdowns. And receiving, Max Johnson, 1,300 yards and 5 touchdowns. Bo Melton, who was a guy we just brought in because of his speed, had 1,100 yards and 9 scores. Carlos Jackson caught 3. Tyler Scott caught 5. J.K. Dobbins got 1. Musgrave got 1. And Will Disley got 1. Over on defense, looks like Deion Henley led the team in tackles with 144. Sacks goes to Tyquan Lewis, who got 6.5. And interceptions, Deion Henley got 2. Tony Adams got 1, and the rookie number 1 overall pick, Ladarius Slate, came away with 1. Lamar Jackson ends up leading the league in passing yards, but second-year quarterback Nicholas Taft ends up in second. Touchdowns goes to Lamar Jackson as well with 45. Interceptions goes to Frank Welch in Indianapolis, who threw 18, along with Mac Jones in Detroit and Kurt Woodard in Philadelphia. Running the ball, Kenneth Walker, 1,900 yards, led the league in yards. In touchdowns, that goes to Jonathan Taylor with 23, and receiving, it looks like Brandon Ayuk caught 112 passes, and he got the most yards with 1,400, and he also got the most touchdowns with 16, so he takes home the triple crown this year. Well, we got a 1-year break from the Atlanta Falcons dynasty. If you did not watch the last episode, Patrick Mahomes ended up going to Atlanta in his first season, defeating Kansas City in the Super Bowl, then coming back to defeat Los Angeles. Then they did not make it this year. The Saints won the Super Bowl there. But then this last season, they get back and win 31-14. The first decision we get to make this offseason is, are we going to take the 5th-year option on quarterback Jimmy Edwards? And I feel like that's a pretty obvious decision. And Bo Melton just had a really solid year with us, so let's go ahead and offer him a 2-year deal, see if he wants to come back here, and he will be returning. And we get our backup left guard, John Gaines, back on a 1-year offer, and yes, we will. A.J. Jackson has actually been our starting left tackle the last couple years. We'll see if we can bring him back on a 2-year offer. And no, he would like to play for a new team. I'm not dead set on Antonio Johnson being our number 1 free safety going into the next year, but he's still a pretty solid rating and a scheme fit. So let's see if we can't get him back on a 2-year offer, and he will be returning as well. But from there, we're going to let everyone else go into free agency, see if we can't get even better on this team. But really, the big loss is going to be running back J.K. Dobbins. He has no interest in coming back. He's coming off a pretty solid season, but we'll see if we can't get younger or better at running back. Let's see who I signed in this year's free agency to try to help this team. Starting with a 71 overall left end in Rasheem Green, a 74 overall left tackle in A.J. Jackson. So both of these guys were on the team last year. They now return. A backup safety in Caden Stearns, a backup quarterback in Baker Mayfield, and then at right end we brought in Sam Williams. Running back, we brought in Cam Akers. He's only a few points under J.K. Dobbins, and he was a bit cheaper. I also finally have a solid wide receiver 2 in wide receiver McCole Hardman, who was an 80 overall. Then we got right guard James Daniels, defensive back Carlton Davis, and then safety Derek Forrest. For the first time in this series, we do not own the number 1 draft pick going into this, but we do own 2 first-round picks yet again because of a trade we made in the last episode. And I'm pretty sure in that episode I said that it was going to be a pick like in the previous draft. Like I thought last season we would have 3 first-round picks. I'm glad to be wrong because we have pick number 7 and 8 this year. And with that 7th overall pick, we're going to take outside linebacker Ethan Collins out of Iowa State. B block shed, A pursuit, B tackle, F zone coverage, which is obviously not good, but that's not really our scheme. He has great speed, elite strength, A awareness, A play rec. Yeah, Ethan Collins, you are going to be a Minnesota Viking with a hidden depth trade. But with the 8th overall pick, we're actually going to trade it away for nothing in this draft class. The Titans are willing to give us a first rounder next year and the season after that, along with a second rounder next season and a 5th rounder. So we're going to go ahead and take that trade. And I am fully aware this pick may end up backfiring because this is probably a reach. He's projected in rounds 3 to 4, But left tackle Jalen Humphreys out of Notre Dame, A awareness, A impact block, A to C pass block, and B run block. Strength is listed as solid, but we're going to go and take the risk on Jalen Humphreys, and he will come in with a hidden dev trait. Now in the third round, we're going to take defensive tackle D'Angelo Spruce. He is a projected round 3 to 4, but has round 1 to 2 talent, so welcome to Minnesota. Does have a normal dev trait though. Now jumping ahead into the fourth round, we're going to take defensive end Jonathan Owens out of Minnesota. Now, I will say his ratings are not great. C awareness, C play rec, but does have B power move and C finesse move. The D tackle is pretty, awful, but we are going to take him. Maybe he's a guy that can develop for us, and he'll be a normal dev trait. Not really shocking at all. And now as we go into round number 5, I really don't care if this ends up being a reach or not. Safety Trevor Spriggs has the ratings that I'm willing to take a risk on. C to F awareness, which is awful, and D play rec, but does have A pursuit, B hit power, B tackle, A to C zone coverage. Spriggs, you are a Viking with a normal dev trait. Round number 6, we're going to take running back Jason Kitchens out of Arizona State. He is 23 years old and he's 5'5", 166 pounds. But the main thing I see is that he has B juke move, and I'm willing to take the risk on that for him. So Kitchens will be a normal dev trait. The reason I made that pick is that in my experience, whenever they have a high juke move, there is a higher chance they have a hidden dev trait. Obviously doesn't work out there, but with a 6th round pick, I'm not going to be upset. But in the 7th round, we're going to take defensive back Dante Presley, who was projected to go in rounds 3 to 4. And really, I don't see much of a problem with him. Does have D play rec and B to D awareness, but for a 7th round pick, I'm perfectly fine with the rest of these attributes. So Presley will also be a normal dev trait. We ended up not getting anything too absolutely insane. Ethan Collins, the 7th overall pick, is a 74 overall. We then got a 72 overall left tackle, a 74 overall defensive tackle, a 67 overall right end, a 67 overall safety, a 65 overall running back, a 68 overall corner, and then I didn't even realize we had this pick, so I accidentally simulated right past it, and it's a 65 overall left end. Well, this one does hurt a bit. We passed up on both of the top players in the draft. One of them was a corner, which is not really a position I was really looking at this year, but I was looking at running back, and Dwayne Tatum was on my radar. I didn't think the 7th overall pick or the 8th overall pick was going to be a good spot for him, but with an 81 overall, I would have been absolutely ecstatic, but we do not get him. It is now finally time for Season 5 of this rebuild, and here is your starting offense. Jimmy Edwards is up to a 90 overall. Max Johnson right now is a 91. We will have a rookie left tackle this season, but our center is now up to an 80 overall, and our right tackle is up to a 76 overall. It looks like McCole Hardman is going to be our slot receiver though this season, so Tyler Scott will stay on the outside. I personally believe the defense is slowly coming together. Obviously, we still need some help along the defensive line. I really have not had any good free agents show up there, and I haven't really been in a position to draft any of the top guys that have been available so far, but we did manage to add Ethan Collins this draft, who I think is going to be a pretty solid player for us. You guys know the drill. It is now time to set the season goal. But this time we're going to make it 7 wins. We managed to go 6-11 last year. I think we did get better, so let's see if we can manage to meet that. Well, this season is obviously not going near as well as last season started. We were 3-3 at the midway point last year. This year we are 1-5. We do have the number 21 offense and offensive points per game and the number 17 defense. Well, I would say our odds of making the playoffs are pretty well already dead, so let's jump to the end of the season and see how bad we really were. Well, to be completely honest, we finished better than I thought we would. We somehow kind of managed to turn the season around and finish 6-11 with the number 17 offensive points per game and the number 30 defense. For the first time in his career, Jimmy Edwards broke 4,000 passing yards. He also had 24 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Running the ball, Cam Akers ran for 7 touchdowns, but our backup running back Gregory Poe ran in for 9. Receiving, Tyler Scott over 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns. Max Johnson over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. McCole Hardman also caught 8. Carlos Jackson caught 3. Now over on defense, Henley once again leads the team in tackles. In sacks, that goes to Derek Hall. Our rookie Ethan Collins came away with 4. And interceptions, we really did not get many. Dan Henley got 1. Ladarius Slay got 1. And Derek Forrest got 1. Anthony Richardson ends up leading the league in passing yards with 4,500. Touchdowns is going to go to Lamar Jackson, and the most interceptions is JoJo Rice, the quarterback in Miami. Running the ball, Kenneth Walker ran for 1,700 yards, and touchdowns goes to Breece Hall, who got 21, along with Jonathan Taylor. And then what about receiving? Amari Cooper back in Dallas led the league with 99 catches. Most yards goes to Amari Cooper, and most touchdowns goes to Casey Washington, a second-year player in Los Angeles, and Zay Flowers was second, or at least tied for first. And this season's Super Bowl goes to the Dallas Cowboys, with quarterback Anthony Richardson winning Super Bowl MVP. The first thing we get to handle this offseason is accepting the fifth-year option on wide receiver Max Johnson. Then we get to negotiate a new contract with tight end Carlos Jackson. I really don't want him to leave, so we're going to bump the money up just a bit. He obviously has a ton of interest in coming back, and he will be returning. I would also love to bring back Henley. He has a ton of interest in coming back as well. How about a 3-year offer, and he will be returning as well. Outside linebacker Zach Bonham did win Rookie of the Year for us, but really has been kind of quiet since then. He doesn't have a lot of interest in coming back here, so we will offer him a 4-year deal. If he doesn't take it, he doesn't take it. We'll offer this contract, and he is going to be testing free agency. I will attempt to bring back running back Gregory Poe on a cheap option, a 2-year deal, and he will be returning as well. Left tackle Chad Josephson, let's see if we can bring him back as our backup, a 2-year deal, and he will be returning. Left guard Connor McGovern, an 81 overall scheme fit. We're going to bump it up to a player friendly, but then knock that down to a 1-year offer. Will he return for that? Yes, he will. How about our kicker, Brandon Aubrey? Let's just go ahead and bump that up to a very player-friendly deal because he doesn't have a lot of interest in coming here. I don't have to worry about our kicker. He is 33 years old, but kickers tend to stick around for a minute, so how about a 3-year offer? He will be re-signing as well. But now everyone else here will be getting to walk into free agency, and we'll see if we can get better on this team. Now, here are the guys that we have brought in this free agency, starting with defensive end Nathan Jones, outside linebacker Dwight Logan. We then got defensive end Isaiah Foskey, I think it's Foskey, I'm probably wrong. We brought back safety Tony Adams. We also brought back defensive back Mekhi Blackman, but then I also signed safety Jordan Fuller to start over Adams, and then we have a mentor receiver, wide receiver Stephon Diggs, making his return to Minnesota this season. In the last draft, we had back-to-back picks at picks 7 and 8. The 8th overall pick was actually originally Detroit's. Well, we traded that one to Tennessee, got a first-round pick for it, and that wound up being pick number 15 this year. And with our 7th overall pick, we're going to trade that as well. We're going to send that to Denver, pick up a second-round pick this year, but a first, a second, a 5th, and a 7th in the next draft. So in the next draft, we will have 3 first-round picks. I honestly may end up regretting this pick because I don't really like drafting running backs in the first round, but we are going to take running back Rashawn Carr out of Ole Miss here. He does have good speed, elite acceleration, A to B awareness, A to B ball carrier vision, B break tackle, B carrying, B stiff arm, and spin move. So Rashawn Carr, you are a Viking with a normal dev trait. Yeah, I immediately regret that decision. I'm going to let you know right now there was another running back I was looking at, and I will be looking in the draft recap to see how bad of a wrong decision I made. You know what? Why not go ahead and pull this off? We're going to trade the 4th pick here in the second round to Pittsburgh and pick up yet another first-round pick for the next draft. And by the way, the other running back I was talking about was Lindsey Sellers, the one that just went to the Giants here at the start of the second round. You know what? Just because we can, we're going to trade this 7th pick here in the second round as well. We're going to send that one to New Orleans and pick up yet another first-round pick in next year's draft. We will finally make a pick here in the second round, though, because we own the 15th pick in this round. We're going to take outside linebacker Bradley Jordan out of Oklahoma State, and he will be a hidden dev trait. So there's our replacement for, I don't even remember the guy's name that actually left us in free agency. I know the 3rd round is probably a weird place to take a backup, but that's what we're going to do with J.D. Albert out of Clemson. A to C block shedding, C pursuit, B tackle, A to C zone coverage, and he will come in with a normal depth trait. Then we have wide receiver Julian Poole here in the 4th round with round 2 to 3 talent. Does have C in a bunch of categories, obviously just a depth player, but Julian Poole will come in as a hidden depth trait. There were no other draft picks that really interested me, so I went ahead and just jumped to the end of the draft. But we do get to see that Rashawn Carr is a 76 overall, so at least as a normal depth trait, he starts as a decent rating. Then we get a 75 overall outside linebacker, a 74 overall middle linebacker, a 71 overall receiver, and then a 65 overall tight end, a 64 overall quarterback, a 68 overall running back, a 67 overall left guard, a 69 overall receiver, and a 67 overall corner. This draft was honestly kind of underwhelming. I really did honestly consider trading up for this guy. He's a 77 overall. He went number 1 though. Really wasn't willing to give up what they wanted. But apparently the best player in the draft was a fullback out of Texas A&M that Jacksonville took near the end of the 7th round. This is the other running back I was considering drafting, and it does hurt just a little bit to see that he is a hidden dev trait. Our offense finally at least looks decent to me. We have a really good wide receiver 1 with Max Johnson. Stephon Diggs, probably on a 1-year rental, should be a pretty solid option for him. Carlos Jackson's up to an 87 overall. The offensive line is solid. There are obviously a couple bad spots, but Humphries is currently injured. Once he's back, he should be the starting left tackle. Over on defense, the main addition is Jordan here at right outside linebacker, losing, I believe it was Bonham, I think that was his name. But either way, he is now gone, so we had to draft a replacement for him. And then Slate will be our number 1 corner, and Newsome will be the number 2. Now, we do have to set our season goal yet again, and we are once again going to set it at 7 wins. We've won 6 games in back-to-back years. Can we finally take that next step? I would love to get over 500 this season. Unfortunately for this season, though, we actually take a few steps back. Everyone else in the division goes 10-7, but we finished 4-13. Jimmy Edwards ends up with 4,100 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions on the season. Running the ball, Rashawn Carr got 5 touchdowns on 756 yards. Gregory Poe ran for 83 yards on the entire season, but came away with 8 touchdowns. Okay. Receiving, Stephon Diggs, 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns. Max Johnson, though, over 1,000 yards and 15 scores. Julian Poole got 4, and Carlos Jackson came away with 3. Over on defense, it looks like Henley once again led the team in tackles. In sacks, Ethan Collins came away with 6, so he got even better from last season. Foskey got 5. What about interceptions? Jordan Fuller came away with 2, Henley got 1, and Clifford got 1. Now for stats around the entire league, Lamar Jackson got 4,600 yards, leading the league, along with 44 touchdowns, which leads the league. Interceptions goes to Kyler Murray, who threw 16, and he's apparently the quarterback in Philadelphia now. Running the ball, Breece Hall got 1,700 yards to lead the league, along with 23 touchdowns. Now for receiving, Amari Cooper leads the league in receptions, I believe for the 2nd year in a row. Does he have the most yards? Yes, he does, but he does not have the most touchdowns. That goes to Zay Flowers in Arizona. Moving on to this year's Super Bowl, where Patrick Mahomes once again takes the Falcons to the big game, but this time cannot get the win and loses to Joe Burrow, who is the quarterback of the Los Angeles Chargers now. Now, that is going to wrap up this episode, but I want to end this episode on a good note here. Obviously, going 4-13, not really what we expected or wanted, but we now have 5 first-round picks, and they are all within the top 12, so we should get a lot of help added to this team.